Hi, good evening and welcome to the life mapping webinar. Such a pleasure to be able to share this information with so many people around the world. We've had more than 400 people register for the webinar. I'm sat at home here this evening on the beautiful Isle of Wight. So I just want to spin the camera around a second and let you see the view that I can see here from the window. If we can capture a little of it out along the shoreline to the cliffs there. It's such a beautiful location, always inspires me. I go to so many lovely places around the world, but I'm always so really pleased to be here at home. The life mapping program is something I've been sharing for a great many years. I'm going to turn off the camera for a second so you can see the full screen and catch the presentation. I travel around the world, as you probably know. I present in many countries, more than 20 countries last year. Most people know me for the goal mapping system, but actually it's the life mapping that's probably closest to my heart. It's such a special program. Close out the sound of the sea a little, as lovely as it is, just so the audio quality is clear. Goal mapping is focused on achieving goals, as the name would suggest. Life mapping is focused on being your best. And here on the screen you can see one of my life maps. This is a life map I created back in 2013. I create many goal maps each year, but I only create one life map each year, and sometimes maybe only one life map every 2 years, because once you get clear about what it looks like to be your best, that really doesn't change very much. Not from place to place or area of life to another area of life, or in fact year to year. Being your best is something you take with you everywhere you go. A life map uses a combination of words and pictures to help activate the whole of your brain, and through that send a powerful command to your subconscious about your desires. And in a life map, you map out you being your best, and by sending that command to your subconscious in words and pictures, it helps to command your subconscious to help you be your best a little more each and every day. And so tonight in the webinar, I want to guide you through the technique, and you'll see the handouts are attached, or you can get them from my website, goalmapping.com, and create your own life map. The information in life mapping is important, but the most important thing is actually creating your own map. And after 20 years of teaching the life mapping system in businesses and schools and public groups and networks, I'm still creating my own maps. Even though I know the information well, like so much in personal development, it's not actually knowing it that produces the power. It is using the techniques. And so my techniques of life mapping and goal mapping and my other systems have helped now more than 4.5 million people around the world. Here's one of my main goal maps. This is a goal map that I'm still working on. I've been working on it more than 20 years. And the goal is really a sense of purpose, which is to make a difference in the world. And rather than just say make a difference, I put a target on it. And you'll see it there in the middle of the goal map. It's to help lift 7 million lives. Goal mapping is helping people in health and fitness and sport and well-being. We run family sessions. I've just come back from Italy, where I've been running my advanced program, Shine. And we had teenagers, parents, and even grandparents in the workshop. The youngest person just 14 and the oldest person 84. We're taking the same approach here in the UK with the life mapping workshop, which is coming on the 5th of May, where we have people bringing their children as young as 8 and other people coming that are in their 80s. So we have businesses using goal mapping, and we have sports people using goal mapping, and family groups using goal mapping, and we have educational authorities using goal mapping. It's such a universal system, like the other systems I've created of life mapping, action mapping, self mapping. And my main strategy over the years for helping a lot of people is helping those that wish to teach it. And I'm so proud to say we have nearly 1,300 people around the world certified to teach goal mapping, and many of them to teach life mapping and action mapping, helping people to improve their lives in every area, whether that's increasing their grades or achieving their targets and projects at work, living a better life, having more health and fitness, becoming champions within their sport. Whatever you want to achieve, one of the mapping systems I've created can really help. Why do we have all the different mapping systems? Well, there are different areas of life where we need to achieve success if we are to become truly successful and achieve what I believe is the highest level of success, which is not really about wealth. It's about authentic happiness. Living your life with a sense of genuine happiness, peace of mind, and of course, abundance. And abundance is one of those terms that can mean different things for different people. For some people, it will mean a lot of money, and for other people, it may mean much less. But what it means at the basic level is you're not in want. And so if you have enough, and if you have peace of mind, and if you have happiness, then I believe that is true success in life, regardless of your material achievements or the level you've reached in your organization or position in society. To achieve true, authentic success, there are a number of different things we need to learn. We are each a combination of thought, feeling, and action. We may be all very different and unique, but in essence, we are a combination of our thoughts, and when our thoughts are repeated, they become beliefs. Our feelings, when repeated, become attitudes, and our actions or behavior, when repeated, become habit patterns. And when you put together your thoughts and feelings and actions or beliefs, attitudes and habits, that starts to shape who you are as a person, yourself, your character. Through yourself, you start to influence the world around you. Life is random. I'm sat here looking out at the sea, watching the waves, and I use the analogy that life is like the ocean. It's constantly changing. We don't know which way the wind will blow, but what is always within our power is to choose our set of sail. If you imagine a boat going on a race, and we have many around the island yacht races here on the Isle of Wight, as they go around the island, the conditions are changing, and at some point they need to sail into the wind. And so the conditions of life may not always be in our favor, but if we adjust the set of our sail, if we choose our attitude, if we choose our beliefs, if we choose our outlooks on life, it helps us to make the best of the conditions we face. And so within my work over the last 25 years, goal mapping is focused on helping people to achieve their desires and objectives. Life mapping is focused on helping people to be their best as a person, to develop the winning qualities of character that help improve our performance, whether that's our performance in work or in school or in sport, or indeed just at home in our chores and looking after the family. Action mapping is focused on helping people to change their habit patterns so that they are consciously creating habits that support them in being their best and walking their path towards the thing they wish to achieve. Many of the habits we have been unconsciously developed or accumulated over many years. But once you move along your personal development journey and you start to raise your awareness of yourself and you think about yourself from a deeper level, then you find your power to start to consciously choose those habits that are going to make your life work well. And one of mine that I've consciously developed over the last years is to get up early in the morning and to exercise. It's really quite beautiful to run along the seafront here and take some exercise, but I must admit I seem to have been very lazy of exercise over the years, and so I've used the habit mapping system to help myself integrate the daily habit of getting up and taking the exercise, and 9 times out of 10 now it's just automatic for me. I don't need to consciously think, oh, shall I get up, shall I take the exercise? And this is such a lovely comment I hear from so many people, and heard it recently from one of the new goal mapping practitioners, that he found himself going to the gym, and only once he got to the gym, which he hates doing normally, he realized that he hadn't made the conscious decision. And that is because the mapping systems work like a form of hypnosis. When you create your goal map or action map or life map, you are commanding your own subconscious mind with your conscious desires. And then your subconscious, once programmed, starts to automatically motivate you to move towards the achievement of your goal. My final program, which I run in my Shine event, recently come back from Italy, is called self-mapping. And it's about bringing your high and low self together to become your true self, embracing your ego, merging it with your higher humanitarian qualities so that you find your shine and light up your life. By bringing all of the systems together, it helps you to become your true, authentic self. That helps us to be whole by enlightening our mind, by uplifting our spirits and heart, and by empowering our actions. It helps us not only to integrate ourselves and to be our best, but it helps us to really grow as a person, and we become more. And when you are more, you naturally achieve more in your life, regardless of your focus, regardless of your occupation, regardless of your age or indeed walk in life. Being at your best helps you to achieve your best results and produce your best life. Here are just some of the organisations. There are so many more. I need to add Body Shop to the list, who I've presented for recently this year. But people like Microsoft, Barclays, Siemens, Disney, Coca-Cola, British Telecom, Sky, these are all world-leading organisations that have chosen to give goal mapping, life mapping, action mapping, in fact all of my work, to their employees, helping their people to be at their best so that they can find their niche within their work career, the thing they love to do, and excel within their performance, achieving their targets, completing their projects. In addition, my great passion is helping school children. This is a group of Swedish school children, picture taken by my partner Ilva in Sweden, teaching it to her children in her class a couple of years ago. There are more than 12 countries now, recently Africa and India and soon Brazil being added to the list of those running goal mapping sessions for children, some of them slum children in the worst of poverty situations. And so people of all walks of life, and here Katalin Konya, who is the current world champion female kickboxer, and next to her picture is her goal map that she says helped program her subconscious, gave her the edge, helped her win the world championships. She's so impressed with the system that a few years ago she became one of the certified teachers of the system, and she specializes, like a growing number of people, in teaching this system, helping young unemployed people find work. Increasingly the system's in the news, and a nice article here from CNN about using my mapping systems to advance your career. I've spent the last 25 years going around the world teaching this system, and many people like to point out to me that it's not so different from my past because I grew up traveling. Here's a picture of my grandfather, grandmother, my father, uncle and aunt sat on the steps of their living wagon. I was born into a traveling funfair family. Here's my father's funfair, this picture taken the year I was born. We traveled with the funfair up until I was 18. And at 18, we moved permanently to the Isle of Wight. But we would go there every year for the summer season from the moment I was born. And so I grew up having many different homes each year, one on the Isle of Wight, one travelling on the funfairs, another at our winter base just outside of London. My education was very limited, different schools each year, and I have dyslexia. And I think even if I had stayed in the same school all of the time, I would have still struggled, like so many children, with learning challenges. Even though there were good tutors, and my father here in the picture paid for me to have my own private educator, I just found reading and writing incredibly difficult. I was good at other things, and the teachers would often seek to help me feel good about myself and build my self-esteem by telling me, Brian, you're really good at metalwork and woodwork and making things, and I was. But actually, I felt really low in myself. And you will find that many people with dyslexia have low self-esteem, because if you can't read and write well, and I was with someone in Italy last week that was on my Shine workshop who has struggled his whole life with dyslexia. If you can't read and write as well as the other children, the thought that it tends to foster in your mind is you're not as good as other people. And that feeling of not being good enough has an effect in so many different ways. It shows up in self-confidence and self-belief and your feelings of self-worth. And many people with low self-esteem will go into some form of self-sabotage, that even when they achieve some success in their life, they feel they don't deserve it, and they unconsciously start to tear it all down. And so for me, learning personal development, and in particular how to raise self-esteem by using my life map, has just been really quite life-changing. I've achieved success in my life before personal development. I've become, at 19, the youngest person in the country to own and run a disco. I was 18 when they granted me the license to open the disco, but I was 19 by the time we renovated it properly and actually opened it. It was phenomenally successful. We were in all the music magazines. We had people coming from all over England and abroad to come to this disco on the Isle of Wight. I run that disco for 13 years, and I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of money, and a lot of people enjoyed it. And life is always changing. And at the end of the 13 years, a big change came for the Isle of Wight, which was called the end of tourism. And people started, English people, started taking their Mayne summer holiday in the Mediterranean. These days they go further into America and into the East and places like Thailand, where my friend is at the moment. But they weren't coming to the Isle of Wight anymore. And so a lot of the tourist businesses on the island, like other tourist destinations around the UK, started to go out of business in the late 1980s. And my family's business was one of them. And so at age 29, I found myself in a really tough situation. The family business had ended, my income had ended, I was in £1 million of debt, my home was repossessed, my marriage fell apart under the pressure. I moved back in with my parents, who were also broke because they put all of their family money trying to prop up the business, and their home was going to be repossessed, and they were 65 at the time. And it was just devastating for the whole family. For me in particular, I was in a world of fear. In addition to £1 million of debt and no home and no work, and I'd never had a proper employment in my life, I had no qualifications because I'd left school at 13, which is typical for many of the funfair people of my age. And on top of that, I had dyslexia. I'd never learned to read and write properly. And so life was looking really dark. I was really, really scared. I just didn't know what I would do. And then good fortune came. About 3 months after the disaster, and I hid in my old bedroom in my parents' house for some time, worried about when the repossession men would come to take it. There was a knock on the door one day, and I thought it was the repossession people, but it was actually some friends, and they came calling and they offered me an opportunity. In fact, they offered me 2 opportunities. One, to become a salesperson in their direct sales team they had started, and the other to join them in a network marketing organization. And I was unsure about both. I had no picture in my mind of me being a salesperson. I wasn't sure if I could do it. And I didn't even know what network marketing was. But I just knew I needed to do something. And I joined them, and thankfully, it turned into a great blessing for me, because it introduced me to the science of positive thinking and the art of goal setting. It started with a single quote this wonderful quote by Henry Ford. I know you've probably heard it before. Most people have heard it before. In fact, I'd heard it before, but I hadn't heard the science that backs it up. The quote's simple. If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. And I dismissed it over the years because I thought it was just one of those things that people say every so often, like be happy or think positive, as in telling you to do something. I didn't realize there was a science that you could learn, and by applying that science, it could change you, and through changing you, change your life. Here is what I learned, and the thing that makes me smile so much is that increasingly I get invited into universities to make presentations, even though to this day I still don't have any formal qualifications. I have won some awards for my work. I've won national training awards and speaking awards in multiple countries. But I have no formal qualifications, although the professors in the universities don't seem to mind because they can see I've learned the subject. And here is what I've learned. Inside of your brain, you have a great many brain cells. In fact, the estimate is 100 billion brain cells. Each one of your brain cells grows a little tail to it, which is called an axon, and an arm or branch that grows out, which is called a dendrite. And when you have a thought, you release a chemical into your brain. And if it's a positive thought, the chemical you release is called serotonin. And serotonin is the chemical that gives you a feeling of happiness and well-being. It's also a connector that joins another brain cell. And so here on the screen, you can see two brain cells being joined together. And it's this joining of brain cells that helps us to find answers to problems. And if you've been on one of my presentations before, you will know this slide well because I use it in all my presentations. What not so many people realize is that if the positive thoughts you think is focused on yourself, then the positive thought triggers the release of serotonin, which builds your self-esteem. Self-esteem is the measure of how much you like yourself. The more positive your thoughts about yourself, the higher your self-esteem rises. The more you like yourself, the more self-confidence you have. The easier you find it to build self-belief. The challenge is that so often many of us are focused on what we don't like about ourselves. We're focused on what we believe is wrong with ourselves. Choosing a positive thought releases the serotonin in your brain that creates a positive connection, helps you to activate more of your brain, helps you to find answers to problems, builds your self-esteem, and through that you build your self-motivation. You become inspired. There are so many medical papers written on this, and I'm seeing more and more in the newspaper where the latest medical findings are showing the benefits of positive thinking, not just in finding answers to problems and achieving goals, but in terms of health and well-being. It's estimated now that positive people heal 100% quicker from surgery or an accident or indeed illness than negative people. And the reason is very simple. When you think positively, you release serotonin into your system, and serotonin builds your immune system. This is why they've introduced humor into hospitals, particularly in children's wards, because the more they can make the children laugh, the more they increase their serotonin level, and the more that boosts their immune system. But when you think negatively, whether that's a negative thought about yourself, your life, a situation you face, the negative thought travels along the dendrite arms and it stimulates a neuroresponse to release a chemical into your brain, but not serotonin this time. It releases cortisol. Cortisol is the chemical that gives you the feeling of sadness and depression. And if you hold on to it for a long time, it turns into stress. Now, you can go and read the medical reports, but just check it out in your own experience for a moment. I can't see you right now, but if you were to close your eyes, as I am doing, And if you were to think about something very, very happy, maybe recently, like for me in Italy with the Shine program, or maybe years ago when you were a child, as you call up that happy thought, that happy memory, or indeed a visualization of the future, something happy you think is coming, as you focus on that happy thought, it stimulates the brain cells to release serotonin, and the serotonin gives you a happy feeling right now in this moment. If you start to think about something sad from your past, or something you fear is going to happen in the near future, then within a few moments you start to feel sad because your brain, your thoughts, trigger the release of a different chemical, cortisol. And so whatever you think, you start to feel that way, and it affects your body posture. Both your actions and indeed your physiology and your chemical makeup all start to change based on the thoughts you think and the feelings that are created through those thoughts. Setting goals helps us to maintain a positive brain cell connection. And by maintaining a positive brain cell connection, not only do we find answers to problems and we find more motivation and we command our subconscious to move us towards our goal, but if we're releasing a constant flow of serotonin, we build our self-esteem. And we start to become really effective because we're able to activate both sides of our brain. Our left brain, which is the logical, linear brain, it's also the animal brain, and it's the brain where we process fear and a lot of animal instinct, as well as activating our right brain, which is our leadership brain. It's the creative brain, and it's the brain that processes higher emotion, higher humanitarian emotion, love, empathy, compassion. And we actually need both. So often self-doubt is given a bad press, that if you have self-doubt it's a problem. But actually it's a blessing when it's in balance. Self-doubt imbalanced with self-belief produces consideration. If we only have self-belief, we can get ourselves into a lot of trouble because we believe things that really aren't true. We believe we can do all sorts of amazing things that we really can't. Self-doubt is what stops me from jumping off my balcony right now, because maybe I'll survive, but I doubt it. I think I would injure myself severely because I'm on the 3rd story. And it's a really healthy thing to have some self-doubt. You just don't want it to equal your amount of self-belief because they cancel each other out. You want a little bit of self-doubt that you can call on to be discerning, but for the majority of the time, move towards your chosen desires with self-belief. And it's by activating both sides of the brain, the left side of the brain that thinks in words, as well as the right side of the brain that thinks in pictures, that we really help ourselves to be balanced as a person and to be effective within our life and actions and desires. The life mapping system caters to both sides of the brain because it uses words to activate the left side of the brain and imagery to activate the right side. And by activating these two sides of the brain, it helps us to be really effective. All of creation follows a syntax of success. It starts with intention. By holding a positive intention for what you want to achieve, it helps you take the first step in the process of achievement. And while intention or goal is the first step, the real power actually comes from who you are choosing to be. Who you are choosing to be as a person is the power behind your intention. Once you are clear on your intention, what it is you want to achieve, the real question to ask yourself is, who will I need to be to achieve this? I work with so many sales organizations and network marketing organizations, and they're clear on their intention, their goal about what they want to have. But many of them miss the step of thinking about who they need to be, and they go straight to, what do I need to do? in order to have my intention. And this structure is the sequence really for life success. Be, do, have. Be passionate, be brave, be courageous, be caring, be enthusiastic, be motivated. It is your ways of being that are the real power behind what you are doing that lead you to have your desire, your goal, your intention. You can have two people doing the same thing. They may even have the same goal, but one's being passionate, being enthusiastic, believing in themselves. They're throwing themselves into the task. And that always achieves such a greater result than the person that is just doing the plan, following the actions, moving through with the procedure, the tick list, the routine. The being is the power. And not only is it the power within our actions, it is attractive. You want to be around people that have developed their qualities of character and winning ways. They're the people that feel like they have some fairy dust and maybe it will rub off on us. And we like to be around those people. They're fun, they're inspiring, they get us motivated. Your ways of being are generally referred to as mindset. Mindset's always a combination of thinking and feeling, belief and attitude. Your mindset is what empowers your skill set and leads you to have your results. I work with so many large organizations, and recently on my certification program where we teach other people goal mapping and life mapping, I had someone from one of the leading recruitment organizations here in the UK. In fact, they're a leading international organization and recruitment company. And he was telling me that more and more now, when employers are looking to interview candidates, while they want to see your high school degrees, they want to see your qualifications and past experience, what they are basing their final decision on is your mindset, not your skill set. And this is something that has changed in employment and interviewing in recent years. And I've been talking a great deal about it in my work, and especially with my presentations to teenagers. The reason why this is changing is because technology is escalating so fast. The estimates are that mankind's entire knowledge has doubled in the last 50 years. They reckon it will double again in the next 15 years. Every time something new is invented, it's a short time before it's a requirement to use it, and it's the people that are flexible and move with the changes that find the benefits that are created by change, and those that are rigid and don't move with the times get left behind. Having a good mindset helps you to learn new skill sets. But if you're someone that has learned skill sets but is stuck where you are with the skills you have, when new skills come on board within 3 or 5 years after joining the organization, you're slow to learn them, take them and apply them. And so what organizations are increasingly interested in, and this is a change that the schools need to catch up with, is mindset. Unfortunately, so many of our schools are still focused on teaching children skill sets and qualifications, many of them really unnecessary for their future life, rather than helping them to understand how to build more self-belief, self-confidence, and the winning ways that produce success in life. One of the analogies that I use in the life mapping workshop to try and explain this is the human radio. I expect you've had the experience, like almost everyone, of being in a car, traveling through the countryside, the radio's playing, there's some wonderful song playing on the radio, but as you move along the country roads, you start to lose the reception of the radio. It's skipping in and out. And along with the music, you're getting a bit of distortion, so crackle and hiss. My question to people is, how much of an adjustment does it need on the radio tuner in order to correct the signal and get a strong reception again so that the music plays? And the answer is always it takes just the smallest adjustment. Just a little fine tuning on the radio dial brings a clear reception. Well, the analogy in the life mapping workshop, and I like to play a game with it, and I will be on the 5th of May at the workshop, is that people are like radios. And as we move through our life, we're sometimes losing the reception. We're losing the signal. And we experience some negativity, some sadness, some upset, some disappointment. It's like crackle. It's like taking away the edge and the enjoyment and the reception of life. And just like the tuning dial on the radio, in humans, it takes really just the smallest amount of fine tuning to bring ourselves back into focus and to help us have a clear reception on life. And the tuning dial on our human radio is our beliefs. By fine tuning our beliefs, we bring our life into focus. And at the life mapping workshop, I help people to understand the self-actualization cycle, that your beliefs are made originally from your thoughts. And of course, we form our initial beliefs while we're very, very young. And once we have our beliefs in place, they tend to influence the next thoughts that we think. Our thoughts, in turn, trigger the chemical release that create our feelings, just as we were looking at in the diagram. And the combination of thoughts and feelings influence our actions and behavior. That shapes our habit patterns. Our habits shape our results. And if we're unaware of this cycle, the challenge is that sometimes we get a result in life that wasn't what we wanted, wasn't what we were expecting, and sometimes we're reactive. And when we're reactive, it means that we're acting on autopilot based on an old belief, an old attitude, which may not be appropriate to the situation we face. And sometimes this cycle, which is known as a self-actualization cycle, becomes a downward spiral, where a negative thought creates an even more negative feeling, action, habit, result. And we find ourselves spiraling down into some unwanted situation of self-sabotage. And so at the life mapping workshop, I play a game where I get people to regress back to their childhood a little and start to repeat all the things they heard as a child when they were growing up. And as they start to repeat all these things they heard from their parents, from their teachers, from their grandparents, aunties, uncles, friends, brothers, sisters, they start to have realizations that many of the comments they've heard, that they've accepted as true, have formed their beliefs. Some of our beliefs support us because they are empowering. They help us to be our high self, high self-esteem, high self-image, high self-confidence. Some of our beliefs, without us meaning to, without us even realizing very often, limit us. They become our low self beliefs. They lower our self-esteem, they lower our self-confidence, and they lower our sense of self-worth. The wonderful thing is we have a huge degree of free will. And once you are aware of your beliefs, if there is a belief that you don't like, you can change it. And this is what the life mapping day and life mapping system are focused on, helping you to change your beliefs. The starting place is knowing what they are. And beliefs are so enormously powerful. We only need to look at the work of placebos, where the doctors give somebody a neutral substance but tell them it's an amazing cure, and to the degree to which the person believes the doctor, amazingly they show a cure in their body. And more doctors are fascinated by the power of the subconscious mind, that when you give it a suggestion, like here is a cure, or you're amazing, or you can achieve your goal, the subconscious responds and helps the person to be that way. So let's just explore briefly how our self-esteem is formed. We just looked at this cycle of manifestation, with belief in the middle, then thought, feeling, action, habit, and result. If we reduce this cycle down and we just call it self, what we can say is we have a high self, that's us at our best, high self-esteem, high self-confidence, high self-worth. We also have a low self. low self-esteem, low self-confidence, low self-worth. And in the middle, we've got the line of life running through the center. Maybe you have met people in your life like I've met people, and I'm going to be very honest with you now and say I've been this way myself at times. But have you ever met someone that's a nice person, but they're a bit of a bragger, a bit of a boaster, a bit of a show-off? I had a really good friend years ago, and it didn't matter what I'd done or seen or achieved or got. If I went and told him about it, he knew more than me. You know, he was a bit of a know-all and a bit of a show-off, and I often was puzzled about why he was that way. And it was only when I really started to study psychology and understand self-image and self-esteem and self-worth that I realized the truth of what he was struggling with, which is that he was desperately insecure. He put on a mask to cover it over. His efforts to be a know-all expert about everything was to impress other people around him, because he was very unsure of himself, and he needed other people to be impressed with him to tell him he was okay, because he was unsure. And I've been this way in my own life. It starts in childhood, and if you have low self-esteem, if you feel unconfident at times, invariably it will have started when you were very young. If a young child is regularly compared to other children, if there is conversation in the home, oh, what's your problem? Your brother and sister are doing great. Or the other children in school can all do it, why can't you do it? Or everybody else is getting good grades, why are you so bad? If there is any type of excessive measurement to exams, if there is conditional love, mummy and daddy are going to love you when you're good but not when you're bad, a young child really can't comprehend it. All they know is, I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as these other people I'm being compared to. I'm not as good as this exam I've got to pass. I've got to work really, really hard to improve to become as good as this exam. And then there's another exam. And I've got to improve to become as good as this person I'm being compared to. And that must mean that they are better than me. If I've got to improve to become as good as them, they are better than me. And that means that I am less than them. The feeling that you are worth a little bit or a lot less than somebody else in your childhood gradually over the years develops into a feeling of worthlessness. The feeling of worthlessness, that you're not good enough in some way, sits at the very core of all low self-esteem and low self-image, and it shows up in all sorts of ways. Some people become introverted, and you can often spot an introverted low self-esteem person because they're very meek, and you can see that they're timid and they don't really value themselves and they don't think their opinion is worth much. What is more confusing is the low self-esteem extrovert, who has the same feelings inside of not being good enough, but they really want to hide it by putting on a loud, showy front. They put on a mask of bravado and they pretend to be confident and they fool many people. But once you start to understand it, you start to see through the mask. It's a strange thing, self-image and self-esteem. When we build our self-esteem high, it really helps us to make every other area of our life work. But when your self-esteem is low, no amount of success or achievement helps you feel good about yourself. And this is why one of the sad reasons that we see so many talented, beautiful, really capable, gifted people ending their lives. All too often the newspaper headlines are of some famous person that we all thought was wonderful. I'm thinking of Robin Williams at the moment. Talented, gifted, made people laugh, obviously successful, achieved so much, and yet so desperately sad and unsure of himself off camera that he ended his life. And we hear the same story again and again and again. And of course, these are the extreme cases. But even in just your average life situation, so many people will hold themselves back from living their best life. They will go into some degree of self-sabotage because in the back of their mind and the back of their heart, they have a degree of low self-worth. High self-esteem people feel worthwhile. They value themselves. They know they're a good person of value. Low self-esteem people feel worthless, and the lower the self-esteem, the more they feel worthless, and the more they will swing like a pendulum between being introverted and extroverted, depending on the situation they face and how it triggers them to respond. High self-esteem people feel secure in and of themselves, in their actions, in their life, in what they're doing. And low self-esteem people are the opposite. They're insecure. High self-esteem people are free. They're free to change their habits. They're free to change their opinion. They're carefree within their life. I was watching people dance at the superhero party at my Shine event in Italy, and you can see people with high self-esteem because they are just free and easy to be themselves on the dance floor. And low self-esteem people, it's the opposite. It's like they're chained. They're self-conscious. They're worried about what other people are thinking of them. They feel awkward in social situations, and the dance floor often triggers them into some form of terror. And they feel like they have lead weights tied to their feet. High self-esteem people open to other ways of being and doing and living, open to other people's ideas and feedback and suggestions, open to change in life, new possibilities, new adventures. Low self-esteem people are closed. It is their way or the highway. And they're not interested in being different. They fear change because they don't know if they can cope with the unknown. They don't know if they can manage to make things in a different way. High self-esteem people are motivated by a core energy of love. Love for themselves, which raises their self-esteem, and love for others, which makes their relationships work well and brings out the best in all areas of their life. Low self-esteem people are driven by fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of not having enough, fear that somebody else is going to have more than them. These qualities are what is happening on the inside. What does it look like on the outside? Well, high self-esteem people are givers and low self-esteem people are takers. High self-esteem people are genuine. What you see is what you get. They're real. Low self-esteem people tend to be false. There's a thin veneer of personality. There's a mask, a persona. And they're often chameleons. They flip from being one way to another way depending on who they're with because they're constantly trying to impress other people with what they know, how they look, what they can do, the possessions they own, because they need other people to be impressed with them to tell them that they are okay. Their sense of security comes from the outside of life. High self-esteem people, the sense of security comes from the inside. High self-esteem people have an internal motivation that it's you first. They put other people before them. Low self-esteem people, along with being takers, they are me first. They're self-centered. High self-esteem people choose their response in life, particularly to the negative situations that come every so often, the things that don't work out as they had planned, whereas low self-esteem people do the opposite, they blame. High self-esteem people are selfless. They are caring and giving. Low self-esteem people are selfish, self-centered. In the life mapping workshop on the 5th of May, coming at Heathrow, we help people understand how to move up, away from their low self-esteem and to live more in their high self-esteem. Of course, life is always a series of ups and downs, highs and lows, blessings and burdens. And it's when life gets tough that we often find ourselves falling down into our low self-esteem and engaging in some of the negative ways of being. the more that you are aware of how your self-esteem works, and you have cutting-edge tools like the life mapping technique, the more it helps you to stay focused, and through that activate your brain and command your subconscious so that you command yourself to have a higher sense of self-esteem. And in the last 10 minutes we have of the webinar remaining, I want to guide you through how you create your own life map. I do hope you will come to the life mapping workshop, because although the webinar is amazing that we can reach so many people and at a great distance, I know we have people from other countries viewing the webinar tonight, it is still limited, and it's the face-to-face interaction that really creates the power. But if you're not able to get to the workshop, then do what you can to empower yourself. Download the free life mapping templates. You'll see they are as an attachment here in the webinar. And I will guide you through the simple process now of creating your own life map. It will take about 40 minutes if you wish to do it for yourself. The starting place is to create an affirmation of you being your best. We have many levels of purpose. If you talk to most people about having a purpose, they're thinking about life purpose, something they're going to commit themselves to maybe over a great period of time to achieve something very meaningful. However, the purpose we are all born with is prime purpose. And this is the purpose shown here on the left brain life mapping template right in the center. And prime purpose is very simple. Choose to be your best. Most life forms are born with being their best encoded into their genetic structure. Humans are different. We have a very high level of free will, and that allows us to actually choose to be our worst. And unfortunately, many humans are not only not choosing to be their best, they're choosing to be their worst in many ways. So create a little statement, the shorter the better, that represents you being your best. And it can be as simple as I am my best. Here is my statement. I shine. I shine like a diamond. When I shine, I know I'm being my best. Now, there is one simple question that you ask yourself for each of the boxes around the outside. And the question is this: which one way of being or quality of character, if you developed it and lived it a little more each and every day, would most help you to be your best, most help you to shine, light up your life, walk your path, take your actions with power, and achieve your goals and dreams and wishes? Now start with the mental box. Which one mental quality will most help you be your best? Patience, focus, self-belief, balance, consistency. There are oodles of mental qualities. Choose the first one that comes to your mind and then write it as an affirmation. An affirmation is always written like you have it now, as it is here on the screen. I am patient. So if you've had a quality like patience or focus come to you, you write it like you have it. Then the same question to the emotional. Which one quality, this time of the heart, if you live that way a little more, would most help you to be your best, walk your path, take your actions with power, and achieve your goals and dreams and wishes? Maybe it's passion or love or care. Again, you write it like you have it. Then the physical. Which one quality of the body, if you live that way a little more each and every day, would most help you to be your best? Energy, strength, power, flexibility, radiance, well-being. Choose a quality and then again write it like you have it. Choose the quality that you think you need most. Then the financial. And remember, this map is about ways of being, and there are lots of financial ways of being. Being abundant, being prosperous, being balanced, being considerate, being frugal, being a saver. Choose one way of being, such as here, I am abundant. that represents you being your best for this area of your life. Then the same question in the social, being open, being caring, being honest, being loving, being committed. Choose a quality that most helps you in your relationships. Write it like you have it. And then the spiritual, peace, acceptance, faith. Choose a quality that represents you being your best in this area of life, and you will have mapped out a simple template of what it looks like when you are being amazing. Now, the words are for the left side of your brain, but the power actually comes from activating the right side of your brain, and through that, commanding your subconscious. And so just like all of my systems, they are designed for whole brain activation. And if you take the second life mapping template, you'll find it's a mirror image. Instead of 7 boxes, we've got 7 circles, each one representing the boxes we've just looked at. And the work now is to put the 2 templates side by side and gradually to draw pictures that represent your written words. These can be very, very simple pictures. They don't need to be elaborate drawings. I meet so many people on my workshops, some of them very left brain people, and they are not used to drawing at all, but they can do a tick, they can do a little money sign, they can do a stick man. Very simple symbols like an arrow to represent direction or a circle for completion actually can have a very deep meaning. This was one of the very first life maps created by a lady that was on my workshop in Siemens, and I've looked at it for many years, and I love her imagery. It's really quite simple imagery, but she has managed to capture a real depth of meaning, and I know that the map worked amazingly well for her because she kept in touch with me for many years afterwards. Here's mine again. Center statement, I shine. I shine, I be my best. What does it look like when I shine? I have peace in my mind. That's the top circle and box, the mental. I have a passionate glow in my heart, a flame. I have a vibrancy in my body. I'm flowing and balanced in my actions. I'm a torch in the dark, a shining example to others. And I look to have my connection with the universe, the divine spark, and follow my own intuition. Of course, you don't need to stop at one map. You can create as many as you wish. And when I first started creating life maps, I did create many until I gradually got to the essence of what I thought it looked like to be my best. And now I only create about 1 a year. Here are various maps. This one from one of the senior managers in Microsoft a few years ago, Tina Shaw. And here one from working with leaders. And this map focused about being inspiring for the team and energetic and authentic, taking off the mask. I do hope you've enjoyed the webinar. I hope even more that you have enjoyed it enough that you will download the templates and create your own map. It is really not listening to me that makes the magic work, and this technique does work like magic. It's working the technique that brings the magic into your life. That is why I so hope you'll be coming to the life mapping workshop on the 5th, because I'll be able to give you so much more. It's a whole day from 10 in the morning through until 5 in the afternoon. We have people bringing children as young as 8 through to people in their 80s. Once you've created your map, sign it to give your commitment, and then see it and say it once every day for 30 days, so it gradually builds up the brain cell connections, activates your whole brain, and commands your subconscious. If you are inclined to, sharing it with family and friends, posting online is a wonderful thing to do. Here's the link to my events page where you'll find a read more sheet on the life mapping workshop if you'd like even more information and the ability to book. It's just £49 for an adult, £25 for a teenager. Children under 12 come free. And it gives me such a good feeling to say that. It doesn't feel like I'm selling very hard at all there, just letting people know what's available. I have a simple philosophy in all of my programs. Think your best thoughts. If you do that, if you think your best thoughts about yourself, your life, your situation, then it helps you to feel your best feelings. The two of these together influence you into taking your best actions, and through that you will invariably live your best life. The life mapping system helps that happen really, really well. I'm just going to bring the camera back on for the closing moments. And here is my life map in my folder here, words and pictures. I look at it once a day, and it really helps set me up to have my best day when I do it first thing in the morning. I wholeheartedly recommend it to you. I hope you will join me at the Life Mapping Workshop on the 5th if you can be there. We already have a great crowd booked, coming from many different backgrounds, organisations, walks of life, and indeed different ages. I wish you all lots of love and happiness and success. May your self-esteem always be high, your confidence always be true, and your heart always be full. Bless you all. Good night, everyone.